Yeah. So we're back for episode 4 of Don't Mess with Jim, and I've got to apologise, I sound dusty. I'm not. Well, I am dusty, but I'm not hungover. My glands are up like testicles. I've been in New York for a week, and now I'm back. So we're in Edinburgh this week, as you can tell. Scotland, see? Scotland canvas. We've gone all out this week. So big shout out to Alan Nash and Ace Property Management here in Edinburgh. They've sorted us out in his gaff, in his establishment, a nice bright room full of energy, which I need because, as I say, I am feeling dusty. I was in New York last week doing a feature for RugbyPass on Ben Foden, and it was epic. It was all work. It was a little bit of play, but it was mainly all work. We were showing, or we're going to show the world how big rugby is in New York and the MLR, which at the minute actually isn't that big. Although Ben Foden is a big deal out in New York. Me and him walking around, it was like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro walking the streets of New York. I felt like a rock star.
Some big apples in the Big Apple.
2 big apples in the Big Apple, Rob. I enjoyed that. Rob's back as well. So we sacked off Pizzo from last week. Rob is back and he's up in Edinburgh. He's up in the motherland. So, yeah, so I was in New York, which was epic last week, and missed all the rugby. I had to catch up. So I watched New York versus Austin at the weekend. I didn't watch any of the other games until a couple of days ago, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a roundup of last week's games.
Well, just briefly, how would you compare the final Premiership weekend compared to New York versus Austin?
The final week of the Premiership, in terms of standard,
just the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Good setup in New York. Like, they've got the right idea. They got the cheese before. They did the anthems. Hell yeah. Get on the scrimmage. We like a bit of rugby. Like, they loved all that, the chanting. And did it, decent weather. You know, the surface wasn't great. It was more of an AstroTurf. I would struggle like mad. Although Foden looked like he struggled like mad as well. He got sat down by the second row. That was the only try that Austin scored in the game. So to say I could do a job over there would probably be lying. 2 years ago, I'd be tearing up trees. I don't know what the hell Bastro is going to do when he's out there. He's going to be absolutely killing boys. The bin men, the policemen, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, you Bastro, oh my good God, he is going to fucking kill people over there. It's going to be a scene of devastation. So I don't know what the get up there is with Bastro. We found out that Toulon, in fact, aren't paying his wages, that he's being paid about 35,000 euros for the 6-month season that he's going to be there for. He must be getting paid by a big bank or something. Societe Generale. There must be another reason why he is going to New York to play with his kids, against kids as well. So picture the scene.
Is that strife in rugby, or do you reckon just in America?
I tell you what, it's a great coup for American rugby that he's going to go there. And one of the good things about Ben Foden being there is the profile of the game has risen. We're talking about it on one of the biggest rugby shows known to mankind. So it shows that American rugby is on the up.
It's in the spotlight.
It's in the spotlight. We're talking about it. Foden's an absolute legend. What a good-looking human being he is as well. That's one thing that I did. Yeah, you know, I mentioned the Robert De Niro, Al Pacino setup. Who's the ugly one out of them? Al Pacino is older. He's older. I felt like Al Pacino. Do you know what I mean? He looked like Robert De Niro in his absolute prime. So it was class to be out there. Missed all the rugby from last week, from the final round of the Gallagher Premiership. But here we are. We're going to do a little roundup and have a look at the talking points. Northampton made the top 4. Called it. Did call it. I said how it was going to play out was that Wasps were going to beat Quins and Northampton would lose to Exeter and they'd still finish in the top 4. Well, oh my sweaty hands is all I'm saying, because before we talk about the Northampton game, what about the finish to the Wasps Quins game? Matt Carley, you have done me a favour.
We almost had to cancel the show. You wouldn't be able to sit right now.
No.
You'd still be recovering.
We said, well, I stupidly said that if Harlequins made top 4, I'd get a tattoo of Joe Marler's face on my arse. I was that confident that they would not make top 4, and I was right. I was right. They didn't make top 4, but by God, they nearly did. If it wasn't for a 30-centimetre deficit that Matt Carley facilitated. Thank you. I have to say thank you, because the turnover happens, I'd even say in the Wasp half. Absolute worst case scenario, it was on the halfway. So Lang, who takes the kick, who's got the legs, he's a big old lad, decides not to go to the corner, decides to take the kick at goal, moves the ball forward. Matt Carley gets wind of it, moves it back. If Lang would have just left it where it was, they'd be in top 4 now, but they're not. So unfortunately for Harlequins, they're not. They've had a great season. Shout out to James Horwell, played his last game for Harlequins. He's had an epic time in rugby, not just since he's been over in England, but Northampton. They're
pretty anticlimactic semi-final coming up, don't you think?
I don't know. It's always difficult for, I'd say, the team that won the week before, which is Exeter. So it is going to be Northampton-Exeter at Sandy Park in Exeter for the semi-final. I don't know, Northampton ended up getting hosed in the end. It was 40 odd points, I think.
40 to 20 something.
Yeah, discipline was poor in the second half. But yeah, I don't know. You know, we'll come on to the semi-finals, we'll talk about that. But what other talking points have we got from the weekend? Sale versus Gloucester.
I was there in the flesh.
You were there?
At the AJ Bell.
I was following it on social media. I was like, this game looks phenomenal. It was primed to be. Almost a nothing game. Could Sale finish in the top 6 still? If other results went their way?
If Bath hadn't sneaked it at the end against Leicester, Sale would have been... I left the stadium cheering, saying, we're in the top 6.
And off the back of that performance, they probably should be in the top 6, but they're not now, because we know that Bath, with a last-minute kick from Priestland, secured top 6. But let's just go back to the Sale versus Gloucester game. 46 points to 41. Denny Solomona's try in the corner, one of the best tries I've seen. Obviously, I wasn't there live. How good was that finish?
It looked like he'd absolutely butchered it from the pass, because he stumbled to bring it back round. But yeah, I honestly couldn't believe what I was looking at.
Phenomenal try from their own half. And the funniest thing, what I liked about it was the aftermath. Sale put a tweet out basically saying, Eddie Jones, are you watching? The Premiership's highest top try scorer of the season, which he is. But it's not just him. And Northampton trolled them on social media and said, I beg your pardon, he's actually the joint highest try scorer with Cobus Reinach, the scrum half from Northampton. Loved that. Bit of interaction on social media. But that game was epic. And yeah, Sale obviously not made top 6 because Bath did. I mentioned it there. 32 points to 31 against Leicester. What a dreadful, dreadful season for Leicester. You know, winning that game comfortably against Bath. Bath score, I think, in the 76th, 77th minute. I watched it back this morning because there's a load of fallout off the back of Jordan Murphy abusing the fourth official, complains about the TMO. So I've tried to dig deeper and to see what happened in that game that would have caused Jordan Murphy to speak about that. I was trying to see what it was. Urbana with a knock-on when he scored his try. I don't know. So Jordan Murphy, it's just caused more storm around Leicester Tigers. Dreadful season for them. And Bath, I don't really like Bath. I don't know why. I've always said I've got some good mates. Freddie Burns is one of my good mates. I like Zach Mercer, Garvey, Atwood, who's now leaving to go to Bristol. But I don't know what it is against Bath.
They're the posh boys of the Premiership, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe that's it. I was at Gloucester against Bath. We had a few good ding-dongs. But yeah, so they're top 6. That's it.
So I noticed at the Sale game at half-time, some of the players were, out on the pitch, passing the ball about. When surely, from an amateur club rugby point of view, half-time is where you go in and you get a good grilling, revved up for the second half. Is professionalism to a point now where half-time's not all that important?
Half-time is massively important. All clubs do it different ways, but a lot of people ask this question. You mentioned Sale there, being behind, were they at half-time?
I think they were just ahead, but there was a point, even with Sale, that they went a few tries behind, and there wasn't that much chat behind the sticks. Yeah,
exactly. I think people do it different ways, don't they? Like, I've been in games, obviously, as we know, playing for Scotland, where we didn't win many games, where it becomes white noise. Like it's just the same old, you're regurgitating the same old message and it becomes exhausting. But I think the game is that professional now that guys know their jobs. It is player driven. it depends what's happened before that certain point. You know, was it an intercept pass? You know, was it a knock on? You know, was it a team thing where you'd missed 10 tackles along the way? So leadership's massive in rugby now, and that message, and Saracens spoke about it after their Champions Cup. You know, they scored just before half time, but generally what happened with them is the coaches would go off, there'd be no shouting, there'd be no effing and blinding, and the players would sit together, nothing would be said for 5-10 minutes. You'd sit, relax, get physio treatment, and then the coaches would go off with the leaders, so your Owen Farrells, your Jim Hamiltons, and they'd go off and speak, and then you'd deliver a message collectively done through the players. So it was very different, whereas, you know, 6 or 7 years ago, when I was in the change room with Scotland, you'd be effing and blinding before you go out, you'd be batting your chest, and you go out again and give away another 5 penalties that you did in the first half. So it is different. The game is uber professional now, and the guys know what to do. But it comes upon, I watch, you know, Leicester behind the sticks. They're broken men. Do you know what I mean? What more can you say? You know, sometimes if you've had a replacement come on, you know, he can try and G them up, but it becomes white noise. You know what you meant to do before. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan. And the very best leaders are guys, you know, you can have key kind of words on me or ice or something like that kind of, you know, you would have worked on psychologically in the week or the season, in terms of that's your kind of cold call that brings everything down. It's a bit nauseating, but yeah, the game has moved on professionally now, where even before the game, and this is probably was my biggest thing, you know, my eyeballs would be hanging out of my head, I'd be beating the chest 15 minutes before we even get out onto the pitch. 20 minutes into the game, I'm absolutely fucked. Do you know what I mean? I've given away 10 penalties. You know, I'm exhausted with emotion that's been drained because I've got myself to such a hyper level of stress and up for the game that it ruined me. Towards the end of my career, I changed slightly, didn't listen to music before the game, but everyone's different, all teams are different. But it's interesting to see the psychologies of team sport.
Any infamous hairdryer, blow dryer treatments at half-time from any coaches?
Oh, yeah. Mark McCall went ballistic at me once, which was, I just mentioned, they're cool, calm and collected normally. And we were playing Gloucester away. I'd done the lead up, I'd done the meetings in the lead up to the week, because obviously Gloucester are my old team. It was a Friday night. A lot of people might remember it was the one where James Hook kicked the goal from the halfway line to win the game, the last play of the game. There was a penalty just before half time. Basically, I'll put Charlie Sharples into next week, and he's knocked the ball on, but I'm good mates with Sharples, and he was concussed on the floor. So instead of rolling away, I've stayed with him, and like basically to make sure he's okay. The refs give a penalty away for me for not rolling away, even though he's knocked the ball on in the collision and the ball's tied in and he's knocked out. Anyway, penalty given away. They scored the kick in front of the sticks. I remember Mark McCall going ballistic at me at half time, as in I was in shock that he was speaking like that, and he was going nuts. He was emotionally charged. The team had given away a load of penalties, and I remember being absolutely devastated because, one, it wasn't a penalty in the first place, and secondly, you know, you don't want your coach shouting at you like that, do you? And we went on to lose the game, and he subsequently apologised to me, which I thought was quite nice, but it scarred me for a long time. I'm still scarred now by it. But we need to touch on the Pro 14. Well, we don't need to touch on it. We can go balls deep into it, because, can I say that or not?
Why not? It's your show.
Yeah, it can. We can get. Yeah, we can. We can. Hey, we've got the Pro 14, and we can go and talk about. No, in fact, we can go balls deep and talk about the Pro 14, because we have got an unbelievable final coming up. We need to talk about the semis though. Glasgow smashing Ulster. They put 50 points on Ulster. That's ridiculous. I thought it was going to be tight. I thought Ulster did have a chance. I called Glasgow winning that game. They're brilliant, you know. And the final is prime now against the much anticipated Leinster, which we thought they were going to beat Munster. They did. They come good in the weekend. They made a few changes to the team. Johnny Sexton weren't playing. That made headlines. Ross Byrne came in at 10. Johnny Sexton's only played one Pro 14 game all season. So why are people even questioning why he's going to be starting in the semi-final? I don't know whether he'll start with Ross Byrne or Sexton for the final, but Byrne deserved this opportunity, and it proved right. Sexton come on and did a great job. So it's a Glasgow, Leinster organisers' dream. Over 50,000 tickets sold. It is going to be epic, that game. So big shout out to Glasgow and Leinster in that final.
Who's your money on?
Glasgow. I think Glasgow are going to win it. I think everything's primed for them. I think you look at the kind of momentum they've had. Look, and I've said that fairly easily, that Glasgow are going to win. It's not. You know, Leinster are a brilliant team. I just think that Leinster, in terms of their standards, have had a difficult season. I think Sexton's had a difficult season. He is their captain. He's their talisman. Glasgow's momentum, since losing to Sarries in the quarter-final of the Champions Cup down at Allianz Park, they got whitewashed, they got smoked. David Rennie said that was a turning point of their season. And you look, they've gone to Leinster, beat them away, albeit Leinster's second/third team. Smashed Edinburgh at home, but, you know, put 40, 50 points. I was at the game, can't remember. I just remember they were epic. And then obviously at the weekend put 50 points again in a home semi-final against Ulster. Final, I mean, what dreams are made of? Stuart Hogg's final game in Glasgow in front of 50,000 Rangers, Celtic fans. Who knows? But yeah, it is an organiser's wet dream for Glasgow to be in that final against Leinster, who are one of the best teams historically in world rugby. So what news have we got this week? RugbyPass have published a few articles, but there's not loads. But there's a bit. Of course there is. There's always news. Leo Cullen. Now, I didn't know what to say about this because I don't see it as a big deal. So basically, Leo Cullen, who is the Leinster coach, after their victory against Munster, has come out and basically tongue-in-cheek said that he hopes the Celtic fans come out to support Leinster, as most of the Glasgow lads probably support Rangers. So he's made a throwaway comment. I've got absolutely no problems with that. You know, clearly Leinster haven't either, because there's no apology been issued. You know, Glasgow have not really said much about it. Dave Rennie, the Glasgow coach, when he was interviewed, didn't seem that bothered. But there's been a bit of a storm because people are talking that it's a bit untoward with the history of Glasgow and Rangers, the violence and stuff, that we shouldn't include football when we talk about rugby. I ain't bothered. I actually quite enjoy the banter. And I grew up in a Rangers household in Scotland, believe it or not, and it was friendly banter. There was nothing violent about that kind of interaction. I can understand why some people think there might. I know Leo Cullen, played with him at Leicester. He's a great man. I like the way that he goes about his work, and he just added to the spice. I don't know, I don't see much of a big deal, but obviously the social media train, the messages, some people call them snowflakes. Not me, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I genuinely don't think he's meant any malice by it. I just think he's added a little bit to the spice of the game, which I love. I love that. So we published an article on that. Of course, we have, and the interaction and the comments have been huge. What else have we got? Danny Cipriani. Again, another accolade for him. He's won the official Players Player Award. Say no more.
On the wall, isn't it? Eddie's got to do what's right.
What can you say? What can you say? Apart from, you can say, he needs the backing of the players. He needs the backing of his coaches, Ackerman. He needs backing of powerful people of this country. He needs backing of Piers Morgan, who's put out a tweet today, being Thursday, and he's basically said, Danny Cipriani, great player, great guy, England have to pick him. Now, Eddie Jones, if you don't listen to one of the self-proclaimed most powerful men on this planet, who knows his rugby inside out in Piers Morgan, you ain't ever going to pick him. What more? RPA players player, official players player, everyone's players player, Piers Morgan's players player. Say no more.
Just get Donald Trump to retweet it. That'll do it.
I reckon if Donald Trump retweets it, Eddie Jones will pick him. Because Eddie and Donald seem to have the same kind of outlay.
Kind of flair about their business.
Brashness, craziness. What else have we got? Rob Kearney. We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. So Sean O'Brien put out an Instagram story basically trying to boost Rob Kearney's Euros upwards. It's not worked. And he's probably off to France. Yeah, Kearney's probably off to France. It's not worked. Sean O'Brien's tried everything. He's laid a few kind of settlers to kind of say Rob Kearney needs to stay in Leinster. I interviewed him after the final against Saracens. Didn't want to talk to me, of course he didn't. But I asked him the question. He said that, well, it's business now, isn't it? Of course it is. It's last game of the season. I think Rob Kearney will be leaving in Leinster. They've underballed him. They've lowballed him. Whatever that means, €250,000 a year. Is that low balling, Kearney?
It'd be less, I reckon.
You reckon? Less than 250?
Sean O'Brien apparently was offered 180.
Sean O'Brien was offered 180.
And he went elsewhere.
And he's gone to London Irish. Rob Kearney will pick up €500,000 in France. Big loss though. You know, they've obviously got some fantastic players. The Lama, it's a great player for them. And it's just evolution. Everyone moves on. Everyone comes towards the end of their prime and they've got to go and cash in. So Rob Kearney's probably going to go to France, don't know where, let's just say Toulon.
Brive.
Imagine going to Brive if you're Rob Kearney. I don't know, Paris would be his thing, wouldn't it? But Stade Francais maybe. I don't know, Zebo's been playing 15 for Racing 92. Oh well, Rob Kearney's off. What other news have we got? Oh, this is my favourite. The fastest man in rugby, Australian superstar in athletics and sprinting, Trey Williams. He's signed a sevens contract to go to the Olympics in Tokyo. His PB is 10.10 seconds.
Carlin Isles' PB is 10.13.
You know. Carlin Isles is 10.13. So we are going to see the quickest man, Trey Williams, aka Quadzilla. Now I've been trolling him. on Instagram. This guy is absolutely shredded. Shredded. Now, Australians produce good athletes who are shredded because you're down the beach all the time. You don't want to be looking like a sack of shit, do you? But this guy, aka Quadzilla, look at the size of his quads. He's got like a 12-pack and he runs 100 metres in 10.10 seconds, which that is, running the 10.10 doesn't impress me as much as the size of his quads. I can run 100 metres in sub 15. 14 seconds I've done 100 metres in. There's not much difference. 14 seconds, you know what I mean? So I'm not impressed by his speed that much, although the rugby world is. So you look on his Instagram, there is videos. I haven't seen the video of him running a 10.10. I've seen him doing these sprinting exercises. His arms are so big, so muscly and so fast that I cannot wait to see this guy grace a rugby field. His legs are unbelievable. Each one of his legs. Do you remember the Australian kangaroo that they posted, the one that was ripped to smithereens? Each one of his legs looks like one of them. He is that big. And I cannot wait to see him grace the rugby field. Imagine him against Carlin Isles. The thing is, doesn't even matter. If you can't tackle, just get the ball in your hand and just run, son. Right, so we're going to preview the games at the weekend. We're coming now, well, we're not coming, we are in the business end of the season. So, semi-finals, we mentioned Sarries versus Gloucester first up. Saracens. What more can you say? I can try and package it up a different way. I'm very happy Gloucester are in the semi-finals, first time in 8 years. I've been at both clubs. I was captain at Gloucester, obviously finished my career at Saracens. I just think it's one step too far. Can Gloucester win? Of course they've got a chance if Saracens have a very, 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 very off day. But I just look at the kind of matchups across the board. You know, Gloucester played very well against Sale at the weekend, albeit a second team. Sarries put a second team out against Worcester. You've just got to look at the momentum that Sarries have taken into this season in the last few weeks. I mentioned before the momentum of the club. The Tyrrell 15s, the women win that. Premiership 7s, the lads win that. Champions Cup, the lads win that. The A-League, or the Premier Shield or whatever they call it, Saracens win that. The guys are rested now. They've had a couple of weeks since the Champions Cup final, and they're going to go full noise. Gloucester, some of their players this season, Mostart and Ed Slater in the second row, Creel in the back row, Ackerman, Cipriani. Woodward, Thorley, Atkinson's in the centre with Billy Twelvetrees. That partnership that they've got. Ben Morgan, player of the season at Gloucester. Balmain as well at tight head. They've been brilliant this year and they deserve their chance in the semi-final. But I think playing on that 4G pitch against Saracens, where it just looks like they are on a steam train at the minute and nothing can stop them. For me, it's going to be a victory for Saracens. I just hope Gloucester make a game of it. I would love to see Gloucester in a final at Twickenham, though. That'd be class, because they're a well-supported club and they deserve it with the rich history that they've got. But I can't see it happening.
If Gloucester beat Saracens, surely then Cipriani is in the squad.
You're asking the question. Cipriani could score 10 tries at the weekend. The only way it's going to happen now is if Trump retweets Piers Morgan's tweet. That's the only way it's going to happen. Exeter versus Northampton. Interesting one, this. Now, like I mentioned, it's a bit weird because Northampton played Exeter at the weekend. So it's almost like a back-to-back game. But it's just different because now it is a knockout game. There's rumours that Hartley might be fit. Will he be involved? I don't know. He might be on the bench. Been well impressed with Northampton. Up until the weekend, they've been unstoppable. We mentioned Reinach, he was up for player of the season. Joint top try scorer with Denny Solomona. Rory Hutchinson in the centre. Nayavara on the wing. Harrison playing in the back row. He's fit. Law's playing well again. Northampton have been playing brilliant this year. And my mate Andy Good predicted they might make top four. I predicted Gloucester would make top four. I was right. I predicted Harlequins wouldn't. I was right. And he predicted Northampton. And they're here. I just think Exeter needed that win at the weekend. They put 40 points on Northampton, which is a big old score. I think Exeter will win the game, but I think Northampton will make it much closer this time. It could be even one score, innit? I think what we will see is a remake of last season's final, and we will see Saracens versus Exeter. But you've got to give Northampton a shout out, and Chris Boyd and Sam, the bogey-eating monster, Vesti, who I played with. Why do I call him the bogey monster? He got caught on camera on BT Sport. And, they pan up to the coaches sometimes. He's there, like that, looking, picking his nose and eating it, live on TV. Sam, you horrible bogey monster eating thing, but great coach. He's a great coach. So, yeah, Sarries Exeter final. Here we go. Right, the Pro 14 final in Scotland. We're here in Scotland, in Glasgow, which is over to the west that way. And organisers, wet dream. Glasgow in the final against Leinster, one of the best teams in history over recent years. They couldn't have written it at Celtic Park. Is it Celtic Park? Is it? I'm there at the game. It's where Celtic play. Anyway, and there's loads of different things you can talk about with the game. Leo Cullen's comments after the Munster game, saying that he hopes all the Celtic fans come out in support of Leinster because Glasgow are full of Rangers supporters, which I actually think they are. I'm a Rangers fan, apparently. So there's a few kind of side things to that. Who's going to play 10? Is Sexton going to play 10? Is Rossburn going to play? Leinster have used 57 players in the Pro 14 this year in terms of squad rotation. So it's been a squad effort, hasn't it, to get here? Now, I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and it's not heart and head. I'm Edinburgh. #always until I die. Obviously, I like Glasgow. Got a lot of good friends. Stuart Hogg's final game. Hell of a lad. Looks like Eminem at the minute. Actually looks ridiculous at the minute, I should say. It's his final game in Glasgow, and I think they're going to win. I think Leinster have been a little bit stuttery this season. Sexton obviously carrying knocks. There's been a bit of a fallout off the back of Ireland not doing too well in the Six Nations. They've just limped a little bit, which is un-Leinster-like, whereas Glasgow haven't. After losing to Sarries in the quarter-final of the Champions Cup, they've been unstoppable. You talk about momentum, guys like Ali Price at scrum half, Sam Johnson, who's a worldly player in the centre, Tommy Seymour's back in form, scored 2 tries at the weekend. We mentioned Eminem, #Slim Shady, Stuart Hogg at fullback in his last game, Johnny Gray's back in form. I just think Glasgow are going to win. Is it going to be comfortable? Of course it's not. Leinster when they play at the highest level, it is a war, and we saw that in the big game in the Champions Cup a couple of weeks ago against Sarries. But everything is primed for Glasgow to do well this week, and I think Glasgow, for the second time, will win the Pro 14. It was the Pro 12 when they won it before. I think it was the last time it was called the Pro 12. Glasgow, in Glasgow, it's going to be a party, and I'm going to be partying with them, with Slim Shady and Stuart Hogg.
So speculatively speaking, if Leinster lose this final and they've also lost the European Cup final, is Joe Schmidt scratching his head thinking this ain't good leading into World Cup?
Yes, I think you have to. We mentioned momentum. We mentioned Ireland not doing too well in the Six Nations. You know, Leinster's performances in terms of how they got to the Champions Cup final. Well, it wasn't tough, you know, but it wasn't comfortable, which we kind of thought it was. Them losing the final, which was a close game, they did perform very well. The big thing that Joe Smith's going to be worried about is probably how well his star players are playing. You know, Munster haven't done that well this season either. You know, Connacht have been good. You know, Ulster have been good, but they've not got many players in the Irish squad. Yeah, I don't know. I think Joe Smith will be looking at this properly. And as we know, Scotland play Ireland in the first game of their pool in the World Cup. So there's a few side stories here. Should be good. Can't wait. Right, so it's that time of week. We talk about the social media posts of the week. Hardly anything. Why has it gone so quiet? Where's all the good stuff? We mentioned Quadzilla and all the stuff around him. So has he got a social media post of the week? Well, if you go back a few months ago, he has. Of him with his top off, ripped to shreds, running exercises, looks phenomenal. But there's one that caught my eye out there, and it was on an Instagram page called Rugby Memes something. And it's John de Villiers at some tournament, hanging about, basically manipulating his knee, and looks like it's almost dislocating. I mean, talk about what rugby does to your body. Now, John de Villiers was an amazing centre for South Africa. Met him before. He looked at me once. So I don't wonder if he knows me. Yeah, he definitely would. He definitely would. I think that his career ended on a couple of bad knee injuries. I think that that's what it was. Slowed him down. He obviously went to Leicester, the final part of his career. But he's doing this manipulation on his knee, which is just hanging. I think that that's when you've ruptured everything in your knee. Now, there's nothing positive about seeing that. But if you're into your gory details and you want to see what players' bodies are like after rugby, just check this social media post out of him basically pulling the bottom half of his leg off and throwing it in the bin. The one that always interests me is like the end of season do's, basically the end of season parties. Dan Robson actually put a load of stuff. I couldn't find it because it was on his Instagram story, and you can't save them. They always go out fancy dressed, don't they? I wonder how fans receive that. But Dan Robson put some stuff out. Dobby, the scrum half at Wasps, who's been out for the back end of the season with DVT, deep vein thrombosis, and he's out steaming with the lads anyway. Wasps, as we know, have had a catastrophic season. Is Willie LaRue leaving now at the end of the season?
Yeah, he's going to Japan, I think.
He's there on the vape. I think they're out in a bar in Cov. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Dobby, good on you. Enjoying yourself and putting it out there for the millions of people to see. But some people would be pissed off with that. They wouldn't like to see that. Newcastle, they're all out in fancy stash. Did I see Toby Flood wearing some costume or whatever? They're playing in the Championship next year. Obviously, I'm not thinking anything. I'm thinking end of season party, unbelievable. You've earned it. But what will the fans think? Who knows? I used to love the end of season do's. When he used to go, was it fancy dress? So you have the night after, Saturday night, Super Sunday, Mad Monday. I never really made it to Tuesday. I only had 3 days in me, to be fair. I love a bit of fancy dress. Yeah, you go to the charity shop and basically grab a load of clobber, what you can do. I'm not a big fan of, like, some of the lads just go out in Speedos and stuff. Or budgie smugglers.
Is that always run by the players? Do they decide what's going to happen, or is it always like a club organised thing?
Well, you get a WhatsApp group, don't you, that you're all on as players, and it's like, right, meet at the bar, meet here. The theme is, you know, hey, one of the best things we did, fancy dress, bit off tangent, it was bloody brilliant. So at Saracens, basically, we did this thing where I think we were in Marbella. Now, The young lads had to go dressed as robbers. The guys in the middle had to go dressed as coppers. And then the old boys had to go dressed as superheroes. And it was staggered, right? So the robbers would go off and drink. The coppers, 2 pints later, would have to go and catch them. And then the superheroes would then have to go and catch them. So you've got Iron Man here. Iron Man thinking, right, well, these robbers are going to have it. I'm catching the robbers and I'm catching the police. They're cheating. There is no chance. I am chopping pints left, right and centre, as in I'm chopping them. So I've chopped 6 pints and I am looking for coppers, I am looking for robbers, and I cannot see a thing. We ended up in Marbella on the port at Saracens with Kieran Longbottom, a.k.a. Kalo, a.k.a. K-Bomb, a.k.a. Shitbomb, the tight head, who's, is it Western Force now? I don't know. Anyway, Shitbomb, Piss Bomb, that's what we used to call him. He swimming in Marbella, in the dock, absolutely slippered, raging because we can't find the robbers. The cops have turned up and we can't differentiate. What is it, differentiate?
Differentiate.
We can't differentiate, whatever that word is, between the cops, our cops, and the cops of the Spanish. We just couldn't. I don't know whether it's because we'd had about 30 pints then. I mean, Alex Good was dressed as a copper. He had I couldn't work out whether he was Spanish police or the Spanish police were with us. But anyway, I love fancy dress. My last memory was being bent over by another superhero, being sick in the drain. Iron Man was completely dominated. I love fancy dress.